Hi, I'm Dr. Joseph Reed, and I have a question for you. Are you wasting your time and productivity fighting other people's fires? You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? Someone in your organization has an issue, they have an idea, they have a problem, they have a question, and they have something they need from you, or at least they think they need it from you. The issue matters to them, at least at that moment it matters to them. However, you have your own goals, you have your own priorities, but they ask for your help, and like a good coworker or a good friend or a good whatever, you put aside what's important to you to be responsive to their needs. That's fine once in a while. But for a lot of us, it can become a constant source of interruption throughout the day. And it can take a significant toll. Every time you're interrupted, not only do you lose the time that it takes to provide the answer or the assistance, but you also lose the flow and the focus for the goal or the project that you're working on. By the time you reestablish that flow and focus, it seems as if someone else needs something from you. Those cognitive switching costs, putting down one activity, turning your focus to a new one, are like interest compounding on a credit card balance. If you use the card sparingly, no problem. You can handle the interest. But if you're using that credit card every day, day in, day out, that interest is going to add up very quickly. If you're getting interrupted from your work on tasks that are important to you, to fight other people's fires on a regular basis, those switching costs will eat you alive. You won't accomplish the things that really matter most to you. Or you'll find yourself up at 2 a.m. trying to work on something that really matters after a hard day of solving other people's problems. To really be productive, you have to focus your attention and energy. Steve Jobs once said, people think focus means saying yes to the things that you've got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that are out there. It's difficult to say no, and our discomfort with the word no is based in our emotions. If we didn't experience emotions and empathy, it would be pretty easy to say no, wouldn't it? There are different flavors to how our emotions may affect us. You may have the need to please. You may equate saying no to being rude. You may be uncomfortable with conflict. You may believe that saying no is going to somehow damage the relationship. You may not want to disappoint the other person. Now, I can be long-winded, and I'm tempted to go into an analysis of each one of the possible reasons, but instead, let me just cut to the chase. Get over it. Whichever one of those reasons is your reason, whichever one resonates with you, let it go. Saying no doesn't automatically create conflict. It doesn't disappoint. It doesn't automatically damage the relationship. It doesn't have to be rude. And having the need to please can end up being highly dysfunctional in your life if you take it too far. I want to offer 3 ideas for taking back control of your time. Number 1, it starts with self-awareness. Recognize what's preventing you from saying no and make a conscious choice to put it aside. Believe it or not, you actually can control your emotional state. Shift yourself to a set of internal emotions where you feel more comfortable setting boundaries and staying focused. Idea number 2, say no without ever having to say no. Wouldn't that be great? Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. You're facing a war every day for your time and energy. Wouldn't it be great to win that conflict without ever having to say no or turn someone away? How do you do that? Well, set boundaries. Establish a time when you'll be available each day to deal with questions and requests. Let's call it your office hours. Let your network know. Encourage them to wait until that time each day, if they can. Now, if you're really in demand, consider briefer office hours, maybe in the morning and in the afternoon. Idea number 3, use a more positive approach. Even if you have well-defined boundaries, there are always going to be unexpected interruptions. And the way you say no can have an impact on how it's received. William Ury has a great book. It's called The Power of a Positive No. And he points out that our focus when we start our response really matters. All too often, we start from the perspective of being against the other person's ideas or request. And that type of reactive response can create animosity. It can create negative feelings. Try a more proactive response. Try a response based on what you're for rather than on what you're against. Consider using a 3-part process. Start off by saying yes to yourself to safeguard what really matters to you. In this case, your time and energy. Now, to do that, you have to be clear in your own mind about your priorities. What are your key roles and goals in your life? What are your key roles and goals that week? If you're legitimately spending time working on one of those key roles or goals, then it's going to be easy to say yes to yourself and to shift to an emotional state more conducive to saying no positively to the other person's fire. Say yes by telling the other person about your current priority. John, I'm right in the middle of something important right now. And then offer a straightforward, matter-of-fact no. Now, your tone of voice matters. Be assertive. Don't be aggressive. Don't be dismissive. John, I'm right in the middle of something important right now. I'm not going to be able to give you the attention that you need. And then close the loop by following with another yes. Now, this second yes is saying yes to the relationship and hopefully providing an alternative solution. I think in most of the cases, you're not saying never. You're not saying, I'm not going to do that. You're saying, I can't do that right now. So if not now, when? If the answer really is never, the issue's clearly their fire and you want nothing to do with it, try to point them in a direction that you believe will be helpful and affirm the value that you place on the relationship. Now, I do want to give you a disclaimer here. I am not suggesting that you disregard important relationships or that you become a bad team player. Relationships are an important part of life. They're an important part of how work gets done in organizations. So they're important personally as well as professionally. Building and maintaining them should be a priority. But it's when we fight other people's fires mindlessly or because we're afraid to say no that it can become dysfunctional and a hindrance to our effectiveness.